it's been made about every change that's been made with this profession. And whether it be the high school level, my brother's also a high school strength coach in Dothan, Alabama. He's the head guy down there, and he was in Florida for a while after that. He played here at Troy as well. But my journey's been, I started my high school coach. I was working for a guy named Bill Kazmaier. I don't know if you know who Bill Kazmaier is, but when I was at Auburn, I went to him and I told him I wanted to compete strongman and I also wanted to learn how to run a gym. And he gave me a job after I finished with my school. And also while I was there, Dr. Stone was head of the Olympic training and doing some stuff there. And I got involved in some of that. And a guy named Bob LaFavi, who was also right from Muscle Fitness at the time, I got involved with him. He was teaching some classes. We got to really be really close. So I got to really be around a lot of neat people and met a lot of neat people. Fred Hatfield at the time, who had squatted, right at 1,000 pounds and everything else. So O.D. Wilson and Corey Everson, a lot of names that a lot of guys won't know, but it turned into a really good situation for me because I learned how to run a gym. I learned how to do, how to do the business part of stuff. I also learned about strongman, learned about, the business of things. And then I did that for a while after I got through with college, and my high school coach called and said, I want you to come home and I need an offensive line coach and a strength coach. So I picked up what I had and moved back, stayed there for a while, for a year, turned around, went to Georgia after that for right at 6 years. When I was at Auburn, Coach Blakeney was the offensive coordinator at Auburn, and he had taken the head job here and said, hey, Shaughnessy, I'm gonna hire the first strength coach at Troy, actual, that is the strength coach. So I picked up everything I had. I left over in Georgia and came to here to Troy, and I left a job making about 40,000 to make about 10,000 in school, and work on my degrees. And at that time, I was about 30 years old. I was really close with a guy from down in Florida State named Coach Dave Van Hollinger. Coach Van Hollinger, offered me a job as a graduate assistant down there prior to that, but I couldn't. I wanted a position to leave Coach Parrish, the guy who I was working for in Georgia. So I stayed, but then when it got time, I felt like we had put a lot of guys in the league, and then into the college ranks, and in the time that I was there, and I felt that I'd done all I could do, so I moved on. When I got here, they said, look, you're gonna live in a dorm, and we'll give you a food stopping. And I sold my boat, my car, everything I had. I wanted to be a college strength coach. I mean, that's what I wanted to do. And they said the position will get better, but right now here's what we got. And at that time we were 1AA, and so I packed all my stuff up, sold anything that I didn't need, and got here. And actually, for the first couple of years, it cost me money to work here at Troy. But I was that passionate about being a strength coach. Coach Van and had told me, Shaughnessy, you got to start somewhere, and for you to have an opportunity to go there and be the head guy right out of the chute, that's a pretty good compliment. My brother was already here playing as a center, and so that helped as well. But I ended up coming, and obviously, I got my master's degree and my EDS, and then I ended up going on salary. And at that time, it was just me, and now I'm in a position where we've got. At that time, I had a weight room that was about 2,500 square feet underneath the bleachers in the basketball arena, and now I've got a 10,000 square foot facility. Plus, we just built a football facility here not too long ago, and I've got one in the arena. So I'm over 3 rooms, and I'm also the pro liaison here as far as our connection between the NFL and so forth. So, so I'm basically over 17 sports But where I'm going with all this is it's evolved so much too as to what strength conditioning is about now. You know, you heard me asking about sports specific. You know, back during that time, you know, we had kids that ran track, they played football, they may play baseball when it came up. You know, your basketball when, you know, you had, you know, at least 2 sport to 3 sport athletes, and now, you know, you don't have any of that anymore. Plus, it counts against you in your numbers and your scholarship. So a lot of coaches don't even try to do those kind of things anymore. And a lot of coaches won't give up their athletes for another sport or the time that they need to spend there. So you don't hardly ever hear about, you know, even football players running track anymore. So that part of things changed. But you know, the profession itself, I can remember when I took this job, you know, the AD saying, look, make sure that football gets your time. I mean, you're hired here predominantly for football, and just let all the other sports get in the weight room if they want to come in. Write something on the board for them, and you know, make sure if they want to lift, they can stay busy. Well, I was like, you know, and at that time it was just me, like I said, and I was basically a graduate assistant with a restricted earning stipend, and but you know, I was working, you know, doing security work from 10 o'clock at night till 2 in the morning, and then I was in the weight room, you know, at 5 a.m. to try to get sports going, and wouldn't leave till 5 or 6 in the evening. All of you know work long hours if you're in the profession. Like I said, I work 12 hours a day every day, and I have been doing it now for over 25 years. So it's nothing new. But so you know what, and now to find anybody dedicated enough to want to put those kind of hours in is become pretty hard. I mean, I've even trying to hire graduate assistants now. You know, if you tell them you're going to pay for their school, they say, well, I need a stipend, and I need this, and I need that, and time to work. But I worked night security to make extra money, and had a credit card, put money on a credit card to pay my bills. And you know, before I ever actually went on salary, I charged up about $15,000 just to be the strength coach at Troy. I actually paid to be here. So, but I wanted it that bad. And so I was told just to do football, and get everybody else in there. But, you know, as you know now, you know, if you attach yourself to football, 2 things are going to happen. You know, you're going to get hired and you're going to get fired, or you're going to end up moving after a period of time. And I wanted to be the strength coach for everyone. So I intentionally took on the female sports along with football. And it was the best thing I ever did, as far as that, because it also gave me a different perspective of things. And, you know, back then, you know, you had soccer because of Title IX, you had softball because of Title IX, and you had, you know, women's tennis because of Title IX, and women's golf because of Title IX. Well, now, you know, here at Troy, everyone's got to win. Nothing's for fun. You know, none of your sports are just for fun. And so it's turned into a situation where, you know, if you're going to be a strength coach, you need to be a strength coach, not the football strength coach or the basketball strength coach or the baseball strength coach, because those are the big 3, you know. But you need to be able to train everyone and be versatile in what you're doing, because you never know what's going to happen with your position. And, you know, I know I'm talking to a lot of high school guys, but it is a situation where, you know, you even at the high school level now, I mean, most of them are handled like colleges as well, you know, and you better be good at what you're doing. And, you know, a lot of times it's who you know to get there and what you know to stay. And, you know, you got to be a person who can, who's a chameleon, who can adapt to a situation. I'm all about the science of everything. And, I mean, I've got, all your certifications and all that stuff and taking all your tests and, but it really comes down to you being able to, first of all, it comes down to your athletes trusting you and trusting what you're trying to do with them and what you're trying to get across. Because, there's 100 ways to skin a cat, I mean, I can remember working for Bill Kazmaier, and I would watch him lift. And, he was 3-time world's strongest man. I would watch him lift and the things that he would do. And I was basically his gopher at that time. I would go for the weight here and go for the weight there and spot him and make sure. And when he went to competitions and so forth. But what he told me, and it stuck with me to this day, he said, there ain't but one way to get stronger, you better touch that steel. And, it's not necessarily about doing a lot of weight, but if you're going to get stronger, you got to touch the steel, you got to lift. You're going to run faster, you're going to have to run. You want to jump higher, you better be jumping. You can do all these other things around it to help assist it, but you got to do the things that are going to make you be successful in those areas. And my philosophy on that is I don't think about training and training a football player, a basketball player, a tennis player. I try to train kids to be more athletic. Be athletic. Do movements that are athletic, that move in different planes. And I was asking a while ago about being specific. We get so caught up in being specific to what a kid's doing. Then if he happens to get outside of that specificity, then something goes wrong and he tears something or she tears something or something goes, haywire. I mean, it's just like you take an offensive lineman, he's got to sit there and he's got to learn to do a kick step. Well, does he need to be strong up top? Well, sure he does. Because if he takes a bad pass set, he better be able to adjust with his upper body, because if not, he's going to get blown up. I mean, so, you got to train the whole body. I mean, soccer, the thing I see with soccer, most of your soccer kids come in and they've been running with a ball on their left or right foot since they were 4 years old. And believe it or not, a lot of your soccer athletes that I've experienced don't truly know how to run properly, because they're either at a slow jog or when they are trying to accelerate, they're accelerating with the ball on their foot. So, I mean, I watch all those things or pictures, about hips or golfers and glutes, I mean, you got to know what animal you're approaching, what you're doing. But it's evolved so much. Used to you bench, squat, and clean. Now it's there wasn't any kettlebells or medicine balls or rubber bands or boxing. You had barbells and dumbbells, and you thought if I was stronger, if I could bench a lot of weight and I could squat a lot of weight, I was a big deal. It's just like somebody walks in your weight room and says, well, who's your strongest player? Well, shouldn't they be going, who's got your best power clean? Who's got your best hang clean? Because that correlates more to athleticism than, not one sport do you play laying on your back, and so, but at the same time, from a psychological standpoint, kids need to have a good bench press. They need to have a good squat. They need to have, and for me, from importance, what are the importance of lifts? If I'm slack on time, I mean, I'm going to clean, I'm going to squat, and then I'm going to bench. And that could change for some of you. It may be deadlifts for you, or maybe whatever. But I mean, for me, that's kind of my philosophy, and I pull a lot of stuff from a hang position. So because that's the ready position in most things. That's the starter position. Once you do stuff. But that's not really my talk here. But the role then and now. The role then was, hey, get them in the weight room, make sure you keep them busy, run the mess out of them, make sure they're conditioned, make sure they're able to lift heavy weights and pull heavy deadlifts, and, make sure when you turn the numbers in, we better have good numbers every time they turn them in. It's like I heard our last talk, talking about, you get to a certain point, how strong is strong enough that you need to start working on other things, but it's thought that if I got a good bench press and I got a good squat, then I'm going to be a good player. Well, back then you didn't think about hips and, flexibility and how you rotate. It's just, if he's a big guy, because, everybody ran straight at you before, it's just blow them up, so as far as football and baseball, it was thought of, well, we don't want them lifting a lot of weight. Basketball is the same thing. We don't want them doing any overhead movements, and, now all that's changed. We don't want them doing any power cleans, this, that, and the other, got stiff wrist or whatever. So, all that's changed now. And I hate to say it, but, as a strength coach, you're the first one to get blamed and the last one to get thanks. Because if in my level, if they're playing well and they're doing good, we did a great job of recruiting. If they're not taking a good step, a little slow into their break or whatever, well, what are we doing in the weight room? Why can't so-and-so gain weight? Why is so-and-so got a hamstring issue? Why is so-and-so's quad doing this? So it's the kids know what you do, but I mean, I tell my staff all the time, if you're wanting to get a pat on the back in recognition, you're probably in the wrong field. You got to do it because you feel passionate about what you're doing and you really want to make a difference. And most of you, you become a life coach more than a strength coach. I mean, because I know I spend more time or as much time talking to kids about problems outside of their sport. And, because if they're not mentally where they need to be, they're not going to do what you need them to do physically. And, when would you ever thought that a strength coach would have to chart moods, how they come in, are they attentive? What are their sleep patterns? Did they eat breakfast before they came in? Are they consistently in a depressed mood? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? I mean, now you're worried about if they even want to be here, so, I mean, you got to pay attention to everything that they do now, because it's, you can't take anything lightly, and you need to really listen to your athletes and what they're saying. Because I know we put a lot in, mental health has become a huge part of things now. Nutrition is next. And then, what they do in the weight room, what they do on the field, because if they're not mentally there and they're not, putting the things in their body that they need to, and they're not getting the right rest, it's not going to matter what you're doing in the weight room or what they're doing on the field. And in that order. So I spent a lot of time making sure that I, understand the athletes, have conversation, learn where they're coming from, parents, the whole deal, because, it used to be you coach really black and white, you either got it done or you didn't. Everybody's treated the same. Now as time's gone, you've learned that, you got to handle each cat a little bit different. Some of them will let you get close to them, some of them won't, and you got to find out what helps them to trust you and what you're doing. Because if they trust you, I always wanted to make it a point that, they don't. I know as when I was a player, I never wanted to disappoint my coach by not doing what I was supposed to do. The sets, the reps, the running, you got to find a way that they don't want to disappoint you as well as themselves, because, and, there's a fine line between being their friend and being their coach and being their mentor. And, you gotta be lighthearted with them, but when it's time to go to work, it's time to go to work. They should take advantage of you, because you're nice to them, or because you talk about, and you've learned a little more personal. So you just got to create that fine line with that. But for me, that I feel like that's been my success. I mean, when I had DeMarcus Ware, I mean, DeMarcus was as good a person as he was a player. And, you know, he comes in at 196 pounds and he leaves here at 251, you know, and, you know, he was running 4.7, you know, and he vertical 35 inches. He leaves here, he weighs 251, he verticals 40, you know, he runs the 40 and 447, you know, and he's a 10th round pick in the first round, or 10th pick in the first round. So, but it wasn't me, it was him and the person that he became. And you know, if I said do this, he did. He didn't want to disappoint me. He didn't want, you know, and he didn't want to disappoint himself. And he was a kind of person that, hey, you just tell him what I need to do to get there. You know, I mean, he trained right here before he went to the combine. So we train most of our guys here. So you know, and it's not what you're doing, it's how you're presenting it. You know, I mean, you're going to get stronger if you lift weights. You're going to get faster if you run. You're going to be able to jump higher if you jump. I mean, you know, it's the presentation of it, and you know, they've got to have some success to believe in what you're doing. You know, if you're sitting there and you're doing something and their numbers don't go up, or they don't see that they're more flexible, or they don't see that they're moving better, they're going to start questioning, well, why are we doing this? The other thing that comes into play is wins and losses. You know, it's a whole lot harder to get them to train when they're getting their butt beat than it is when you're winning. When you're winning, everybody goes, well, hey, everything's working. You know, I mean, I like what I'm doing. You know, I mean, it's just like with the bench press. You know, you turn around and the kid's got good bench press numbers. Well, he thinks he's going to be a better player because he lifts a lot of weight. You know, I mean, they all get crazy about, well, I bench pressed this, I squatted that, you know, I power clean this, you know, I vertical jump that, you know, and that's because numbers are standard. You know, a lot of people have got away from maxing at all, you know, really getting true max. So I mean, to me, how do you know progression? How do you know if what you're doing is working? If you're, you know, everybody says, well, you got to keep it fresh. You need to change. You need to change things. You need to make it where they like what they're doing, where they're not getting bored with it, where, you know, and I think that's true up to a point, but at the same time, you got to do things for enough period. You have to have a consistency in what you're doing to know if what you're doing is working. You know, it's not just a matter of keeping them busy. And so mentoring, you know, most of the people who have been under me have gone on to do better than I'm doing. So, you know, it's them not getting hired here is the best thing that never happened to them. So, as a strength coach, you know, I do feel proud that, you know, I've got guys in Major League Baseball. I've got guys at Alabama. I've got guys at Auburn. I've got guys at Notre Dame. I've got guys at UNLV. I mean, and girls. I say guys, but I mean, who have all gone on. You know, there's and there it's good when somebody calls you, and out of respect for you, you know, they'll take one of your people because, you know, you've done a good job with getting them prepared for their job. And in saying that, you know, where we're at, you know, the NCAA requires that you be certified either through the NSCA or the CSCCA, which the NSCA is through the National Strength Conditioning Association, the CSCS, and which is really broad, where you can train individuals or you can train multiple groups. And then you got the CSCCA, which is specifically for colleges, you know, college strength coaches. And you know, I encourage, for me, if you come in, you got to have one of those two. The CSCS really makes you more marketable, not only in the United States, but it's a nationally recognized test. And it's extremely difficult. Very few pass it the first time. The CSCCA is like right at 800 hours that you got to be with a mentor coach, which I am a mentor. You know, I'm considered you know, a mentor coach and also a master strength coach at what I'm doing because of the number of years I've been in it. So, you got to be under a master strength coach in order to get your hours. So you got hours you got to turn in, plus you got a written exam. And when you do the written exam, you actually sit down in front of 3 other guys like myself, and we have a panel in front of you, and you have to actually demonstrate the lifts and defend your programming. So you got to have, part of the test is defending programming. It's make sure you can demonstrate the lifts, and it also is a written 125 question test on which is much like the CSCS. I know there's some other certifications out there, but those right now are the only 2 accredited that will be accepted and recognized nationally. And I highly recommend, if your ambition is to go to college or the NFL or whatever, but also from a liability standpoint, which liability has become a big thing. You get somebody hurt in the weight room now, and they're coming after you. I hate to talk like that, but they are. I mean, you turn around and you can't defend the workout that you put on the board or the what you've handed to them, and they get hurt, and they go, well, he's not certified, or he doesn't know what he's doing. He was just put in this position or whatever. I mean, they're coming after you. The NSCA, and I'm not here to sell these, but I'm just telling you, the NSCA actually offers insurance. They feel like if you are good enough to pass their test, they're willing to defend you in court if it comes to that point. And the CSCCA is the same way. And that's when I say accredited, they're accredited that they're highly recognized. That if you pass these exams, you know your stuff, and we're willing to stand behind you and defend you on what you're doing. So hopefully, knock on wood, that never happens to myself or any of you who are listening. But it is a real thing, and it has become I don't want to say watered down, but it's got, even here, we have a person medically that now you have to almost like write up lesson plans weekly of what you're doing with your athletes. And if I got a coach that says, hey, I got a coach that says, hey, I'm gonna run these guys today or girls, I got to know what they're doing. I got to sign off on it to make sure that what he or she's doing is within the boundaries of what we feel like is adequate to administer. That's another part of things that are going on now. But mentoring is a big thing. Make sure that you're trying to recruit in this profession too. I I hate to tell you, but if you're 38 or above now, you're an old guy in this, and I don't mind saying this, because I know Scott, but Scott Cochran in Alabama had changed what some of this means, jumping up and down, screaming and hollering and being a hype guy and all that stuff. I'm not a hype guy. I'm a go get it done guy. I mean, I'm not, and some coaches just want that. They think if you can do all that you're a good strength coach. If you can shave your head bald and grow teeth, and look mean, and that you can get it done. And that's not always the case. I think the best coaching takes place at the lower levels. At Troy, we always got a kid that was an inch too short or a second too slow. You better be good at what you're doing. I'm not in a position where I get a guy and it's just, okay, coach, just don't get him hurt. We just don't need to get him hurt in the weight room, or she, so you better be able to develop your guys or girls and really put them in a situation where they're going to be successful on the field and or court, depending on what sport it is. I do highly encourage that everybody coach all sports. Learn to be a strength coach. In my opinion, I did football for 23 years. That's easy. It's easy. You got to be at this point by this time. You come back in January. We got this time till spring training. We got this time over the summer. We got this time coming in. We got to maintain here. You better run fast, you better jump high, we got to get weight on, whatever. The female sports, you're gonna be a little bit more taxed. You better be able to adapt things, because you can sit down and write down a schedule and your volume and how many reps you want to get this week and how many they're going to do over a month and all that stuff. And all of a sudden the coach comes in and says, I think I'm going to give them off today. I think they need to take a break today. We were on the road and they need to, I think we need to recover. And I got to give them a mandatory off day today. So we're only going to get one day in the weight room this week, or we're only going to get two, or whatever the case may be. So you better have a backup plan and be able to adjust on the fly. With football, it's pretty cut and dry, and you're going to be able to do this, and this in the off season. You're going to be able to do this, and this during the season. And with other sports, it tends to change. And it's no longer a case of, it's our coach talk about the cross country and all that, but, here, we train throwers one way. You train your sprinters another way. You train your cross country another way. You train, your middle distance guys another way. Baseball, your pitchers do one thing, your infielders do another, your outfielders do another. Everything has become, you generalize to specific. And a lot of times it's based on how much time you have. We're on a rule on hours too. So, you got to put together the best format for the time allotted to you to get things done, and what's important to get taken care of that day, because all of us don't have an opportunity that we have the entire day to go, okay, we're just going to have the third baseman and the first baseman come in at 10 o'clock, and we're going to have these come in at 6 o'clock or whatever. So, you got to bring the group in and then break it up off of that, because for here, I know with scheduling, we have our first group at 5:45 and we can work till about 8:30. We have, we see 5 groups in this room before 8:30. And then you got a window, because they're all in class, between 8:30 and about 1. And then from 2 o'clock till 6, it's a lot going on, and for us, you got 110 track and field, you got 45 baseball, you got 35 soccer girls, whatever it is, and so it's, and you have some groups that overlap, and you have to be really creative in your scheduling and what you're doing. But that's kind of where things are at here. Has anybody got any questions for me on, what, I'd really like to know how some people get in, because I know for me, I was really fortunate to be able to get involved. Like I said, Coach Blakeney was offensive coordinator. I knew Coach was at Auburn, the whole deal. And when he got the head job here, he needed to hire a strength coach. And and I know high school situations now are a lot of them have turned into almost, I know, Jonathan, you're having a fundraiser here to try to raise some money for your, for your weightlifting teams. But I might know how and why some of y'all got into it. Can you tell me how Jonathan, can you tell me how you got into strength conditioning?
Me personally, I've just always loved lifting since I started in middle school, specifically to play football. Obviously, we're lifting for football, and then I just loved it. And then I kept doing it because I wanted to be the best football player I could be, because I love football. And then just started getting stronger, and so started loving it more. And then obviously did it all through high school and college. And typically I was usually, the pound for pound strongest guy, so I just naturally gravitated to it because I was having success. And then got into coaching because I knew in 10th grade all I ever wanted to do was coach. At that moment, I wanted to coach football because of my obsession with it. And I originally got into coaching when I graduated to coach football, and I started working my way up, and again as an intern, as most people do at the college level, as a football coach. And then was still dabbing with the strength conditioning as far as always assisting or having to run the strength program for football at the small colleges that I was at. And then, I saw a position at Towson University. That's where Coach Pick was at for an intern strength conditioning coach. And I was like, you know what, that's just like an hour and a half away from me. So that was interesting. And, they were pretty good. And, I would love to try that out. And I just put in for it, hoping that then they'd be like, this guy's just right up the road. Let's give him a call. And luckily they did. And so that kind of changed my route from just being a football coach and kind of strength and conditioning on the side to really full time as a strength coach. And I know when Coach Pick was interviewing me, obviously my resume having the football background at strength, he's like, well, which one do you want to do? And I told him, I was like, to be honest, coach, I just want to coach. It doesn't matter if it's strength conditioning, doesn't matter football, but I just want to coach, help mentor young men and women, and just try to be a positive impact on their lives. And to me personally, it's all the same, whether I'm in the weight room, whether I'm on a football field, whether I'm in a classroom or a basketball gym. It's coaching, it's teaching, it's mentoring, and it just kind of stuck with that. So I was there at Towson for a while and did a little volunteering as well with University on the strength side. And so that's how I got into it. And then now being here, obviously at Destin High School, where I'm a PE coach, technically, officially, as far as what's on paper, but I'm in the weight room all day. They told me, hey, we want you to train the athletes. We want you to train the students all day. That is your job. Before school, after school, and all day. That's what you're doing. So that's how I got into it.
Yeah. Anybody else like to share?
I honestly got into it playing sports all throughout middle and high school. My favorite teacher was my 9th grade physical science teacher, and I decided to play football my senior year, and that was the first time I touched weights. And I just put physical science and weightlifting together, and I was like, that's the major I'm going for in college. And I fell in love with it, and then got my CSCS right out of college.
Awesome. Well, I know a lot of the people that I have hired. I can tell you 5 of them had major injuries that they didn't think were handled properly, and they didn't think that they were trained in order to maybe make those not happen or either have less injury. And so they got into strength and conditioning to to prevent injury, to find way by trying to find ways to help themselves. A lot of them ended up, was heck, I want to be a strength coach so this doesn't happen to other people, so that I can make them perform better. And hopefully if they do get injured, it's a lot less than it would be. I mean, I've had 2 or 3 females with ACLs who actually got into strength and conditioning for that very reason, because of the way they were handled. But it's the greatest profession in the world. I mean, I knew when I was 13 years old that I wanted to be a coach, and like some of you, I mean, I only played football because I wanted the high school I was at, the only way you could get in the weight room was if you were an athlete, so I was a baseball and football, and I was really a better baseball player. But I ended up really liking the weights and started competing and got involved in a lot of different things, and got to Auburn. And like I said, I got to really be mentored under Bill Kazmaier and some of that, and it's been a great journey. And I think that all of you, and I encourage women to get into the field. I think that we need more good women, because I know at the college level, if you're a good female, you can work where you're at about as long as you want to. And if you're good at what you're doing, and you show that passion. I mean, because I have one here that works for me that I got from University of Alabama 11 years ago, and she does a great job. And my track and field strength coach, she does. I got 9 people under me now, but when I got here, it was just me. So the field has grown tremendously. And I know Coach Stiggins with the CSCCA, and a lot of Boyd Epplin with the NSCA. I mean, the field, younger coaches is what we're needing. I mean, we're going to keep having to have younger coaches. I mean, and think about, I know here we spend way more time with the athletes than the position coaches do. I mean, we see them in the morning, we see them at night, we see them, when they're in the cafeteria, we see them. I mean, we we know their families. In a lot of cases, we know them better than the coaches that recruit them do. Once it's all said and done. So, you as a strength coach are a father, a mother, a mentor, somebody that they need to look up to, and I have kids come back to me. I still have conversations and we still talk from guys that I had back in '99. They call and say, "Hey coach, I'm just calling to see how you doing," and because you develop relationships, you become, because they trusted you and what you were trying to do with them, and they don't always do that with their position coaches or with their sport coaches. And I know a lot of y'all coach sports too. I did too, when I was at the high school level. I mean, I've been really fortunate to have the run that I've had here and be at the same university. It's unheard of for somebody to be at the same university for 27 years now, because like I said, if you're attached to football, I mean, since when Coach Blakeney retired, I went from head strength coach and I said, look, I want to go to director. I hired another football guy when Coach Brown, when Neil Brown got here, and I still did all the pro liaison work, and he still was under me, but he was also under the head football coach. So, but we've had 4 other guys since 2015, and some of them got fired. Some of them went with another coach. Some of them found a better job. I mean, but, it's turned into a revolving door. The thing that has gotten better, way better, is salaries, as we really pushed to show the importance of strength condition and what it means. The salaries have gone up from a conference standpoint. I mean, in college athletics right now, you got anywhere from a guy at Oklahoma State making $1 million, to do just football only, to a guy making $24,000 working at a smaller Division I school. I mean, so you can't get in it for the money. If you do, you're probably not doing it for the right reasons. I mean, that's coaching, period, in my opinion. I mean, I think that salaries are what's hurting. I know college athletics, salaries and because now, everybody wants to make sure they get as much as they can, because they know their tenure is going to be short. If they win, they're leaving, and if they lose, they're leaving. So, it's a double-edged sword. So, and I know I'm at the end of my rope. I'm just kind of tired of not hanging on, but I still enjoy what I don't come. And the other thing is, if you go to work every day, you're probably not doing the right thing. I mean, I don't go to work every day. I mean, nobody's ever told me to be here at 6 a.m. Nobody's ever told me, hey, you got to work from this time to this time. I mean, I do it because I love it, because it's what I'm supposed to be doing. I enjoy every day when I get up and I get here, and like Jonathan, like you were talking about, teaching, and for most of us, a coach did it for you. I know for me, I mean, a coach, he stepped out and did it for me and basically raised me, and now it's my profession, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me. I mean, I could have really taken a lot of different roads and done a lot of different things, but I chose to stay in this profession for thick and thin, for the good and the bad, and I think the young people are the future. We need to make sure that we're trying to guide them right. They got way more challenges now than I had when I was. I mean, heck, if you got a kid that goes out now and he gets caught drinking beer, you just go, oh, is that it? Because now there's so many things that can happen, and so many other obstacles that distract them from their athletic careers and what they're doing, or what have you. But is there anything that anybody would like me to cover from any other standpoint? I talked about the overview, my journey, the evolution, the role, then and now, mentoring, getting your CSCS or CSCC. I highly encourage being certified. It makes you much, much, much more marketable. I've never hired anybody because of their degree. I mean, I've hired them because they were certified and because they were recommended by another coach. And that's the other thing. Make sure that whoever you put down as your recommendations, if you want to go somewhere else, that they're going to recommend you, and they're going to believe in you and really do it for the right thing. And like I said, make a difference. And I think all of you are in it to make a difference. I mean, it's not about squat, bench, and clean or deadlift. It's about motivating. And I tell the kids all the time, I know this sounds corny, but I want you to leave here a better person than you were when you got here. Because the weight room teaches a whole lot more than just, how to lift weights. You got to get in here sometime. You got to get up early in the morning. You got to get in here when you don't want to. You got to push through things. You got to lift the day after you just got beat, or you got to overcome because you're sore, because you got a cold or whatever it is, and then, but you're going to have to do that in life too. You can't just take a back seat and make excuses. There are no excuses. There are no excuses. I mean, there shouldn't be any excuses. Anything else? I hope that helped. I'm really trying to, like I said, I've been in this a long time. I mean, I see all these names on here, and I think it's awesome what you're doing. I mean, because it's really important at the high school level. You'll be surprised how many kids from big schools that we get that can't lift, that don't know the proper technique, that don't know proper running form. And most of the time it's because coaches pushed them along and I need you to play on Friday night, and that's it. Don't get him hurt. We don't want him tired, and a lot of times they cater. I'm not stepping on anybody's toe, but I mean, we've had kids from really big schools come here that weren't very good lifters, and the ones that are at smaller schools, they kill it. They know how to clean, they know how to squat, they know how to bench, they do it right, full range of motion, the whole deal, running technique. I mean, we'll have camps come in here and we'll test them on vertical, and I can tell you right off the bat who does power cleans or snatches or pulls or does power movements, because just in their form and their verticals, or their broad jumps, so there is a correlation. So anything else you'd like me to cover?
Well, Coach, I know you said you guys got 9 coaches there. Are they all full-time, or how many interns you got, GAs?
Okay. I got football. I got a full-time football, and then we got one full-time assistant, and then 2 GAs. So there's 4 people with football. When I had football in 15, it was myself, a female, and a male, and then 2 GAs. For my track and field, I've got a full-time with track and field. She handles all of it. She's also the throwers coach. She handles all 3 phases of that. And then I got, for my baseball, softball, I got basically a restricted earnings graduate assistant. I just lost a GA. I am looking for a GA, but it is a tuition only. That will pay for your school. Everything else, would have to be, and it has to be somebody who wants to be a strength coach. I don't, I want somebody who really wants to learn. And so if you come across anybody, feel free to, and my email is really strength@troy.edu. I'm always looking for, I've got 2 interns this coming up this semester. Actually, both of them are females. I don't really have a cap on that. The most I've ever had is 5 at one time. But you do need to be passionate about wanting to do this. I mean, I'm not, just trying to, or if somebody wants to get their CSCCA and they have to put in their hours, I'm all about trying to help them with that, as far as being a mentor for that. If that answers your question.
Yeah. What with those interns and GAs, are there any things that you do specifically at Troy, or any of the coaches are there that for professional development?
Yeah, yeah. If you want to come in and do any professional development, we're all about that. You know, as far as do you need it for your school, or are you just talking about just doing it just because you like to do it?
No, as far as you mentoring those interns and those graduate assistants, there's anything that you guys do at Troy to work with them while they're there, or to,
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, they have to. You know, we go over, we get them here, and I'll be honest. You know, you start out with how to maintain the equipment. You know, we go from maintaining the equipment and keeping it clean to making sure athletes are safe. We go from them being safe to, you know, you assisting and helping with programming. I make them, you know, have to write up their own program, and they have to pick a long and short-term goal or project. In other words, they need to take two athletes that they'd like to work with on their own and have a short term and a long term, and us be able to discuss that and the progression they've made while they're here. And then obviously, you know, their programming at the end to make sure that it's sound, that they're putting together the right stuff. So, I mean, so when they leave here, and if I recommend saying, hey, yeah, they were really good, I think you need to give them opportunity. I mean, they're going to have an understanding of lifting techniques and programming, and also how to keep the weight room clean. And I mean, because it starts from that. You know, I mean, you know, the kinetics and biomechanics and all that stuff. You know, we get a lot. We got an exercise science degree here, and I get some of them coming here that need that. But you know, to me, there's just some things you can't learn in the book. You got to be in here. You know, you got to be in it. You got to see it. You know, and you know, it's just like the test. You know, I had a kid that was just working for me, and he took CSCS 3 times. And Don, he's a little running back from Huntington University. You know, great kid. I mean, he was my right hand, my assistant, and everything I do. I mean, but he continued to struggle to not be able to pass the test. And for me to end up hiring him here, I mean, he had to have a CSCS or a CSCCA. And so he won't mind me telling you, but you know, he took it 3 times. He missed it by 1 question on each part. But at this level, it was really hard for me to do it. He actually got a job at D1, and he'll be very, very successful. I mean, it's a shame that our criteria is, you know, you writing on the paper. The CSCCA, the college one, at least, you know, you put 800 hours in with a mentor, and then, you know, when you sit for your test, you're graded on, you know, you being able to show the lifts and also you showing your programming, you know, instead of it just being the CSCS is just, you know, a written test. So I think you have a much better opportunity when you're sitting in front of a bunch of masters coaches and we're watching you, that you're going to be good at teaching people how to do. I mean, just because you took a written test don't mean you're going to be a good coach. I mean, and that's turned into a situation, and I'm not being negative, but it's turned to a situation with the CSCS where it's more of your professors and your chiropractors and physical therapists and things like that. You know, it's not just coaches anymore. It's a little bit of everybody else, and people who are good test takers and can read a book and take it in. You know, to me, you know, the Krebs cycle and myosin and actin and side filament theory and all that stuff don't do you a whole lot of good when you're in here in the weight room. So, or the ATP CP cycle and all that stuff. So I get it, and you got to have it. You got to have a concept of it. But I need to know that you can coach and that you can relate. You know, that's where it's at now. You better be able to relate to who you're coaching. So, anything else, guys? Well, I hope I reached somebody. Like I said, if you want to reach out to me, it's strength@troy.edu. If you know somebody who might be a good candidate, or who wants to intern, or wants to just get some hours, I won't turn down anybody who wants to learn and will spend, even if it's coming up here during the day or whatever, or a couple of days a week, or I don't care, I don't know, whatever, you know, or even sitting down with me and us, you know, having a little chat, you know, face to face. You know, I don't mind doing that either, because anybody who wants to get in this profession, I want to help them.
I definitely appreciate your time, Coach. Thank you very much, especially again, with all your experience and be at the small, the bigger schools, being able to still be willing to share back with all of us and not feel like, because
But I
sometimes
want you to remember too, I've been a high school strength coach. I get it. I get your challenges. I know what you're dealing with. It's way better now than it was when I was there. But I mean, I understand, you got a lot of other responsibilities and and maybe aren't as fortunate to have some of the, all the annuities that go with it, that we have here now, but it wasn't always that way, and I think, there's a lot of high schools now who got more than some colleges. So and vice versa. So it's just do the best you can with what you got. That's what I would say. We got a whole lot more to work with now than we did before it, but we won 5 championships back in the early 2000s, and we're winning again now. And the bottom line is you got to work for it. Period. It doesn't matter what you're doing it with. If you're, I used to say if you're shoveling crap to get stronger, be a good crap shoveler. You know what I'm saying? Just whatever it takes to get better, do what you got to do. Thanks for y'all's time. Like I said, please reach out if you feel the need to. I'll be glad to help anybody.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much, Coach.
Yep.